Okay. Okay, so today we will be looking at a very important theme of understanding Buddhism through symbols. And I'm going to take you through a very interesting sort of a journey as to how the Buddhist symbols reveal how we can practice Buddhism or how we can understand Buddhism so that it can make sense to us on our day-to-day, in our day-to-day life. So let me begin it. What I'm going to cover in this session, I'm going to cover like early Buddhist orthographic science, alphabets and numbers. And then I'm going to look at a very important monogram, a sort of an ideogram that talks about a very key idea in Buddhism. Then I'm going to talk about knowing the Buddha from an iconic symbols to the Buddha image and what we can learn from it. And then we're looking at know the Bodhisattvas, another very interesting idea. And then animal symbols, not a lot there, but we can glean a lot of knowledge from the mention of various animal symbols in the life of Buddha. And then we're looking at how the Dhamma could be learned through the symbols, particularly the symbol of Paticca and of course the life of the Buddha as depicted in several Buddhist archaeological sites and Jataka tells. And then we are also going to look at the symbolic representation of some of the Buddhist communities of the past and how they continue to live today. Then I'm going to briefly touch upon the symbols disfigured and appropriated. And then I'm going to talk a little bit on Baba Ambedkar and Buddhist symbols. And then how our Buddhist practice can be enhanced, improved by visiting the Buddhist archaeological sites. So this is in a nutshell I'm going to cover today. So let's look at the exploring the alphabets, particularly the Ashokan alphabets. As we know now that the origin of the Ashokan alphabets goes back to the Emperor Ashoka himself. According to the leading Ashokan scholars, they are saying that Ashoka himself might have made it possible to come up with these orthographic alphabets that we see in several caves and on different Ashokan sites. Now, for us, it's very important to understand the orthographic symbols because, as we know, that the combination of the 26 words, like in English from A to Z, can produce the entire gamut of knowledge. Like whatever books we read, they are only the permutations and the combinations of the 26 orthographic symbols. So you imagine that in the ancient India, when Ashoka, conceived these alphabets, which were not there in the beginning of our history. We have the alphabets or what is called the pictograms of the Indus Valley civilization, but we are not able to decipher them yet. So for understanding even Buddhism, these symbols of the Ashokan scripts are very important. Now, here I am looking at one of the very ancient, oldest of the Ashokan writings, which is found in a place called Sarumaru, yeah, Panaguria, on near Bhopal and on Nagpur Bhopal highway, just adjacent to that. And this is a very ancient cave where you will find a lot of prehistorical paintings as well. And here Ashoka came here when he was young, and this is what is written here. What's that mean? Am I able to?
You are audible and you're also visible
Oh, I think
with your
something has gone wrong
presentations.
because my screen has stuck. Okay. So this is what is written here. It's a very interesting sort of an inscription where
We
we
are not able to see your slides, Mangesh.
are you not able to see my slides?
No, I think share the screen. You stop sharing the screen.
Okay, 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 okay. Where is the share? Okay, okay. So this is what is written there on the uh, oh, this is fine. Okay. So this is what is written there, that the king who now after consecration is called Piyadasi once came to this place for a pleasure tour while still a ruling prince living together with his unwedded consort. So according to Professor Falk, a leading authority on Ashoka, this is what shows that this unwedded wife or consort might be Queen Devi, who was in the today's parlance can be said Ashoka's girlfriend. He was not married with her that time, so he came here to this place way back, and he left this inscription, which is very primitive sort of an inscription. And then I'm going to show you a very enhanced another inscription that he left after a few years. So something is going wrong. I don't know.
No, we are able to see your screen.
No, but this screen is not moving ahead. No, that is the problem.
Oh, okay.
Because that is the problem. The slideshow is not moving. And that's what's happening. Okay. Happening? Why it's not moving? Okay, I'll do it from here. So this is what he left behind, and this is another sort of an inscription of Ashoka, where you can see the alphabets. And bear in mind some of the alphabets because I'm going to come to that. And you can see that this is how Ashoka developed the various alphabets which are still in use, and I'm going to show you how they are used. So this chart shows the evolution of the modern Indian scripts, but they are not just modern Indian scripts. As you can see from here, that also the Sinhala script is derived from the Ashokan script. And also you can find that the Bengali language, Bengali script, Devanagari script, Gujarati script, Tamil, Telugu script, they are all derived from the Ashokan script. And if you look at the orthographic history of these various orthographic symbols, here you can see the continuous evolution of, for example, the k in Devanagari as to how the cross k in the original Ashokan script has changed into the modern k. And it's possible to show this evolution through the inscriptions because there are a lot of inscriptions from different times now available to us, and we can continuously, you can see the continuity between the Ashokan letters and the present day alphabets. So why this is important? Because in a way, these abstract symbols, they are important to express the complex ideas. As I told you, that just the 26 alphabet in the Roman script, like A to Z, they can create they can give rise to the novels, they can give rise to any number of books. Their combination, such is the possibility when you have these symbols, and it's we should be very proud to give the world, at least the Indian subcontinent, these great orthographic symbols based on which the modern alphabets are derived. So let me take you to a very interesting sort of a piece of history. The numerals that we use today, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, not 10, 0. They are all, they can be traced back to the Ashokan inscriptions and whatever the numbers, the numericals that Ashoka left behind. Like at the top, you can see the numbers used by Ashoka. And this is not I am saying, this is what the scholars are saying. These are all, one of them as a person who wrote the history of mathematics, he is mentioning that as to how the modern uh, numbers that we use even wherever we are, all over the places, they all can be traced back to the Ashokan numbers. And I think this is a very interesting history. In the recent discussion, William Dalrymple has written a wonderful book, Golden Road, and in which he was having a discussion. He talks about this as to how the world owes to the Indian numerical alphabets. And when we talk about the Indian numerical alphabets of antiquity, we cannot but talk about the Ashokan numbers. So you see, this emergence of the orthographic symbols or the number symbols is very critical, not just for the ideas to be expressed in terms of the words and sentences or through some formulaic sort of a presentation in the general area like mathematics and all, but this is so critical for the development of Buddhism itself because these symbols later became the basis of putting the oral teachings of the Buddha in actual practice. And it is said that in the traditional Buddhist countries, the words or the alphabets are so worshipped that it said that in Tibet there is a tradition to write on the tongue of a child. You see, so the Buddhists were always a very literary class. They respected the text so much, they respected the art of writing so much. And we know that the first writings on the actual medium were done by the Buddhist as far as the history of the Indian subcontinent is concerned. So I'm going to take you through another interesting sort of a journey. This is I just wanted to show you that we have seen in the Saromar a very primitive sort of the Ashokan inscription, but this is very elaborate, very ornamental sort of a writing that Ashoka left behind in the same place, not very far from Nagpur on Bhopal and Nagpur Road, a very famous place, Sarumaru. Some people say that it's associated with Sanghamitra and Mahindra because the Sa and Ma. But some people also claim that this place is actually related to Sariputra and Mahamoggalayan. And it's undecided it as to who represents this place. But it's a very interesting place, and this is where Ashoka visited when he was a prince, and he visited when he was an emperor. So I'm going to take you. I created this background in order to take you to a very interesting sort of a monogram. So this is the monogram I want to talk to you about, and this is something very interesting. So you see, the first is Na, and the second is Ma with two horns, which makes it Mo. So this is basically Namo. So in the Ashokan scripts, this is Namo. And when you put Na or Mo like this, it becomes a symbol. And this symbol is so omnipresent wherever you go any place, any Buddhist archaeological site, right from Ajanta, Ellora to Sarnath to Bharut to any part of the world, you are going to find this symbol. And a lot of scholars have been debating as to what is the meaning of this symbol. Some of the scholars are saying that this represent Tri Ratna, and I am on the side of that. This represent the Tri Ratna. But a very renowned Ashokan scholar and the great scholar of languages of the ancient times, Professor Harry Falk, has recently published one paper where he talks about this symbol as a monograph, which means Namo. And in this picture, you can see that there is this Namo symbol or Triratna symbol, and on which there are three wheels, and a bhikshu is paying homage to that. Now, if this is a Namo symbol, so we have to understand what does the Namo stands for in Buddhist context, and how we can practice Namo in our day-to-day life. So, if you look at the word Namo, it is derived from the word Nama, and the word nama means taking your mind towards, like namayati or namati. These are the verbs which comes from the root nama. So when you say namo, it means that you take your entire being to something. Like when you say namo buddhaya, which means that you let your mind to go towards the Buddha. You let your mind to lead you towards the Buddha. So that is the meaning of the word namo buddhaya, which means that I bend my mind towards the Buddha. And this is actually a very interesting Buddhist practice which has been developed in China, where people continuously chant Namo Amitabha Buddha, which means that they want to surrender to the Buddha of the infinite light and infinite life. So you see, this word Namo has a very deep meaning, and it has become the most omnipresent symbol all over the places in the Buddhist world. And in this particular sculpture, you can see a bhikkhu paying homage to the triple three wheels, and some of the people interpret it as paying homage to the three ratna, Namo Three Ratna. So whenever we see this particular symbol, we have to bear in mind that we have to cultivate the same attitude of taking our mind, bending our mind to what is the highest, to what is the highest in the humanity, that is the Buddha. What is the highest path leading to the Buddha himself, that is the Dhamma. And the community of the people who aspire to attain to the Buddha through the Dhamma is the Sangha. So there are three important, they are the heart of Buddhism. So Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And this particular Namo symbol is so important that you will find it. I'm going to show you how omnipresent this symbol is. So this is Namo symbol in the Nashik cave. You can see it. I'm looking at it, and you can see this Namo symbol means complete surrender, complete devotion. So you can see that this is a very devotional symbol. This is the symbol which makes us to embrace something which is higher than us. It is a symbol that continuously guides us to lead our lives in such a way that we will eventually achieve the Buddhahood. So you see, this is a very important sort of a representation of this symbol in Nashik caves. And you can see it, this symbol is worshipped by various animals here. And I was very much struck by the way this symbol is prominently placed before the Chaitya Gruha. I'm going to show you more of this. And this is in Sanchi. You can see they call it Triratna symbol, or even if you call it a Namo symbol, means the symbol of refuge, like Sarana symbol. You can also call it a Sarana symbol, that you take refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. Like the Namo word itself creates a very deep devotional aspect of a being, and this is what is represented in the 26 syllable formula, like Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So Namo is very important, like bending our mind to the highest is very important. Without that, our emancipation is not possible. So the first step in the Buddhist practice is to surrender our minds and our bodies and our speech to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And this is what, whenever you see this symbol, which is present everywhere in the Buddhist establishment, we have to cultivate this mind of devotion to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. This is what how it is represented in the abstract art form, and you can clearly read the word Namo here. And this is what I found in Vadnagar. So Vadnagar is, of course, Modi's place, but at one point of time it was known as the city of bliss. And there, this very beautiful sculpture of Bodhisattva was discovered, and you can see that on its head there is this Namo symbol. So very interesting. There is this Naman symbol, or the symbol of Three Ratna, or the symbol of great devotion, isn't it? And I find this figure very interesting, that here you can see a bodhisattva, beautiful, blissful smile, and on the head, there is this Triratna symbol. And when the latter iconography developed, this Triratna symbol was represented by the Buddha himself. And you see the various coins of that time, you can see on every coin there is this symbol represented. I'm not able to make it big because it's try it it then freezes. So you have to squint your eyes and see there is this Namo symbol everywhere, isn't it? So this is the Namo symbol in the Sanchi gate. So on the top of this very beautiful gate, there is this Namo symbol. The symbol of devotion, the symbol of surrender, the symbol of taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. So you can see it prominently here in the Ashokan uh, gate, Sanchi gate. And this is very interesting. You see, this is Buddha Pada in the first diagram, and there is this at the top, there is the vacant seat representing the Buddha himself, and there is this Triratna symbol at the top. So you can see that this prominent, the way the Triratna symbol is prominent. So what we can learn from this symbol is that we have to surrender ourself to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And this is from the Chhatri of the Pauni Stupa. This also you can see the Namo symbol here, or the symbol of Triratna, or the symbol of complete devotion to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, the symbol of Saran, the symbol itself of Namo, and then we know what have Namo Buddha, Namo Dhamma, Namo Sangha, or more extended formula Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Now, this is a very interesting sculpture, a metallic sculpture, which was found in Gandhara, and based on this, Professor Falk could interpret this as a Namo symbol, because the bottom, the arc is Ya. Year. This symbol is year. I'm not able to show you, but if you see there are three chakras representing the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and there is this Namo symbol, and below that there is like the crescent, and that crescent in the Ashokan script is year. So according to Professor Falk, this represents what is called the Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, and Namo Sanghaya. So you see, if you see what is a symbol, symbol is something that packs in a small space lot of ideas. That is the beauty of symbols. If you look at the formula, like E is equal to MC square, is in effect, it's a symbol, but it packs the whole reality of the world, isn't it? Such a small symbol. Like that, if you look at this symbol, it in a sense captures the very heart of the Buddha's teachings, and that's why we find this present all over the place. This is one of my very interesting symbols that is found in Sanchi, and this is a pillar which represents the Buddha before he was represented in human form. So you see, there are Buddha padas. If you see the right most photo, I made it bigger, and you see there are Buddha padas, so that represent the Buddha's feet, and the flowers and the other elements, they represent the body of the Buddha, and on the top there is the Triratna symbol or the Namo symbol, which replaces the Buddha head. Now, I recommend everybody to go and visit this Sanchi symbol, because this is in a way our Lord represented in a very symbolic form with his pada, Buddha pada, and then you at the top you find this Namo symbol or the symbol of devotion, or I would say the symbol of enlightenment itself. So you see, this symbol has a multiple meanings, and you can interpret it in a many ways. And we have to know the intention of the person who really made this symbol. And I think this is one of the most interesting symbols in the world. This, whatever you called it, Namo means taking our mind to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, surrendering ourselves truly, fully, completely to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And this is the Buddha in the very iconic form, an iconic form with his pada, and at the top there is the Triratna symbol. So, I can go on talking about lot. I can show you a lot of these symbols. I found it in this Namo symbol, or the symbol of Sarana, or symbol of taking complete refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha in Junnar, in a place called Butalini, very beautifully carved symbol. You can find it in Barut. You can find this symbol everywhere. Everywhere you can find this symbol. And whenever you encounter this symbol, I would recommend that you have this symbol in your house, which will, make you remember the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha on day-to-day basis. And that is what is the Buddha's, Buddhism, and one of the core practice of Buddhism. The Buddha Nusmrtis, remembering the Buddha all the time. The qualities of the Buddha, remembering the qualities of Dhamma all the time, Dhamma Anusati. Smriti, remembering the qualities of Sangha all the time, Sangha Anusmriti. And of course, there is Bhimanusmriti, which I'm going to come to that. But you can understand the importance of this very important symbol. And I reckon that we should all have this symbol, which connects us through the original intent of Buddhism throughout our generations, throughout the generations, because this symbol is the symbol of the reverence, of the refuge, of the complete surrender to the Buddhism and Sangha. So I talked about this Buddha Pada, and Buddha Pada is so important that you will find this Buddha Pada everywhere. And you will find it in South India, all over the places. You find in North India, East India, West India, in Gandhara, you will find the Buddha pada. And I chose this Buddha pada because there is also Triratna symbol here, or the symbol of surrender, or the symbol of devotion. And there is this Buddha pada, very beautiful Buddha pada inscribed here. And whenever we think about the Buddha, we think about his head. But here, this great Buddhist poet from Japan, he had written this very beautiful poem on the Buddha's feet. And I thought that it will be apt, whenever you encounter the Buddha's feet in the archaeological sites, which you are going to, I have seen hundreds of them. Everywhere I went, I have seen hundreds of the Buddha feet everywhere. So this is what he says: what is worthy of respect is not the head and not the hands; it is the soles of the feet. This is what the Buddhist poet Shinmin Sakamura says. Unknown to others for an entire lifetime, for a lifetime touching the dirt, silent, doing its take. This is what the soles of the feet teach. Hey Shinmin, do your work as if you were the soles of the feet. Be a man like the soles of the feet. Light streams from your head, still not good enough. Light streams from your brow, still not good enough. Light streams from the soles of the feet. That kind of strength makes you a great man. You see, we this Pada, they just don't represent the Buddha, but they represent what he has done throughout these 45 years after his enlightenment. He walked barefoot all over the places. This is the act of love. This is the act of compassion that we can see in this Buddha Pada. And they were, even before the Buddha image came, people worship the Buddha Pada. And there are beautiful sculptures where you can see people paying homage to the Buddha's feet. So, I have spoken elsewhere about all these symbols, and I don't want to go much into that. I will tell you the link where you can go and find out the larger discussions on the Buddhist symbolism. But I wanted to put these symbols so that we can put these symbols in our day-to-day Buddhist practice, like the symbol of Namu. Every morning we get up, we surrender ourselves to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. We think about the Buddha's feet, that there is a lot to do, like the Buddha. He walked all over the places barefoot. And this is a great message for us, to achieve something. We cannot just have just resort to the daydreaming. We have to walk. We have to walk like our Lord. We have to travel like Baba Sam Ambedkar. So this is another potent symbol, the stupa, and stupa is the Buddha. And I can go on talking a lot about what, how we can put in practice the stupa symbolism. But suffice here to say that, this represent the enlightened Buddha. And all these, these geometrical figures can be interpreted in terms of the various teachings of the Buddha. I am not going to go there at that, in the details of that. But here you can see that people are paying homage to the stupa, and they are taking us, clockwise circumambulation. Circumambulation is a very interesting Buddhist practice that I think we have to cultivate. We have to pay our homage to this stupa. We have to pay our homage to the Buddha image by walking, in a clockwise direction, right side towards the Buddha. So this is a very important practice. I'm not going to go into that. I just wanted to bring to you this very interesting symbol. This is the photo I have taken from a museum where, the Buddha and the stupa is shown in the same figure. It's in Kolkata Museum. And here is from Bukhara. As you can see, that the four lions are looking at the stupa. It's a very interesting symbolism. As I said, that you can interpret the symbols in various ways. And symbol is very potent. It can give us very multiple sort of the directions. It is also something which is packed in a very small space, but can reveal a lot if we unpack it. So this is a stupa symbol, and this is from South India. A lot can be talked about the stupa. This is the stupa from a very interesting place, Ghantasala in South India. And this is, of course, the stupa in Ellora, and this is the stupa in Nalanda, Shariputra's stupa here in Nalanda, which was initially a small mound at the time of the Buddha, and then Ashoka came and make it a bigger mound. And during the Gupta period, they had this very intricate stupa at the Nalanda University, which was the heart of the Nalanda University. So this stupa is very, very important in Buddhism, this stupa symbol. And this is the stupa symbol in Shivneri fort. As you can see, it's very beautifully carved stupa here. This is the stupa from Bhaje caves, and this is the stupa from Junna caves. What very beautiful stupa. And this one is from Ajanta. The stupa and the Buddha fused together. And this is very interesting on the ceiling. You see, the stupa and the Buddha are alternate. So in a way, it's showing that the Buddha and the stupa is one. You cannot distinguish the Buddha from the stupa. And in the ancient time, the stupa was the living Buddha, and the stupa hold all the property of that Mahavihara. So you can see here it's very beautifully done here in beautiful painting here in Ajanta. So what we can learn from here, we can learn a lot from stupa. So when we go to the Dikshabhumi Stupa or the Chaityabhumi Stupa, it's not just the stupa, it's not just the building. It is a sacred sort of a geometrical structure, and it represents the living Buddha himself. And it's not just that the stupas are built over the Buddha, but over the period of time, the stupas were built over the great teachers of the ancient times. And in today, time, we have the great true stupas associated with Baba Ambedkar. So they are like this, the living embodiment of the living of the enlightened compassion of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So whenever we visit these places, they are not just the buildings. Actually, we are in the contact of the mind, enlightened mind of the great beings. So after that, this is the Kesariya Stupa. I recommend all to pay a visit. It is a magnificent big stupa, and it is the largest stupa in the world, made up of the bricks. And the stupa of Borobudur, which is massive stupa made up of the stone, is built on this on the ground plan of the stupa. So this is, this, if you look at this stupa represent a continuous evolution of Buddhism as well, because in these brackets you will see the Akshabhya Buddha. And there is a great symbolism associated with the Buddha himself. And I'm not going to go deep into that, but when another times. So after the stupa came the images, and this is one of the very interesting image found near Nagpur, bronze image, 7 to 8th century AD. And this was found um, about 30 kilometers from Nagpur. So you see, this is a very interesting Buddha with the eyes open, and the Buddha is standing in the Abhaya Mudra. And this you can find this image in the Ajab Bangla in Nagpur. And why the images matter, because the we don't know how the historical Buddha looked like. Nobody knows, because at the time of the Buddha, nobody people say that one image was carved of the Buddha in the sandalwood, and but nobody knows how did the Buddha look like. But this is how the Buddha image came to be perceived as the image of the human perfection. So if you want a very simple meditative practice, just look at the Buddha image, just sit like that, straighten your spine, put a small little smile on your face, keep your legs crossed, and just sit like the Buddha. That's the image of perfection. You don't move your body, just sit like the Buddha. Even if you do that, that minimum thing, just right now, if you are sitting, you just make your spine little bit straight, natural straight. Just keep your hands like this. You will find you will attain the natural poise. That is the most perfect mudra of the human body, and you can call it a Buddha mudra. That represent the Buddha's enlightenment itself. So whenever you encounter the Buddha image like this, this is from Ajanta, and I can show you many paintings. But this is one of my beautiful paintings. You look at the feet of the Buddha, how beautifully they are done. You look at the way this devotee is paying homage to the Buddha with the lotus flower in his hands. And you see the chivar of the Buddha with the blue border. And the eyes of the Buddha are very beautiful. They are the eyes. You see the eyes in the Ajanta painting is so beautiful. You go anywhere. You go to the Bagh Buddhist caves in MP. You go. You see the Buddha images in in different parts of our country. You will find it's a very beautiful way in which the Buddha's image can communicate something to us. Just try to sit in a meditative pose. Just try to keep your feet like this. Just like to sit with your spine straightened up, and you'll soon realize how that leads to a total poise. So I can go on showing you many Buddha images, but I'm just going to cut it short. I'm going to just show you one of the an iconic images of the Buddha. There's a Deva. He's carrying the turban of the Buddha. Now, the turban in the ancient time was associated with the social privileges or the ranks. Even today, the different community people wear the different turbans to show their social ranks. So, when the Buddha Siddhartha Gautama left his home, he renounced his social ranking. He was in a way become the person without a rank. He had no rank. He didn't belong anywhere. He didn't belong to any social group. He didn't have had any caste. He didn't had any class. And this in a way, this symbol shows something to us, that we also, like the Buddha, must try to become the person without the rank. This is very difficult. We always carry this identity, identity, that rank, this rank. But I think what Buddha did was something very amazing. He did not, he renounced the ranks, renounced the social position, and he embraced the humanity in total. So I think I brought this symbol deliberately to show that how we have to give up the psychological identities, or the social identities, some of the identities we take on to ourselves, which are not also consciously taken by us. They are imposed. So where does this all images come from? This is in Ellora, and this is called the Mahamayuri, and this is much deeply studied by the scholars. There is a book called the Buddhism as the Religion of Book, where she argues that the images like this came from these scriptures. So this is a monk here. He's reading a sutra. You see, there is a table here. If you see my right hand, left hand side, and in the second picture, I have shown it in more clear ways that there is a bhikshu, there is a table here, and he's reading this sculpture or scripture, and from the scripture, the Mahamayuri is emerging. So all these Buddhist deities, they have presence in the Buddhist devotional practices, but they don't have any metaphysical sort of the presence. You cannot find them. You cannot claim that they exist on the planes other than our mental states. And I think this is a very interesting sort of a interpretation that have been done by the scholars. And you see, she's very highly respected Buddhist deity in Japan. And this is another depiction of Mahamayuri. You can see peacock here, and you can see the monk here studying the sutta. From here, his imagination, these particular images are coming into play. And a lot of these images, we can find the evolution of these images. So what is important here when you look at the symbols like this is to come back to the Buddha's teachings and try to make the sense of that. So we all get surprised with so many Buddhist deities, these so many Buddhist sort of bodhisattvas that we see. And in Sadhana Mala, which is one of the records of the Buddhist, the bodhisattvas in Buddhism, with their different iconography, 500, more than 500 images are listed in that. And I've shown you that they emerge from the imagination of the practitioners. Now here in Ellora, I discovered something very interesting which I didn't notice before, isn't it? If we just pay, visits to that, if we have some goal in mind, it even every single visit yields a lot. So in the pre, in some of my last visits to Ellora, I discovered this. You see, there is a stupa, and below that there is a Buddha, and below that there is a Bodhisattva. Now this is, and then another panel also I found where there is a stupa at the top, and there is the Buddha, and there is the Bodhisattva. And in this panel in the middle, you can see the Buddha and you can see the Bodhisattva. So you see, this is why this is important, because in a way this shows the evolution of the Buddhist deities, not coming out of nowhere. There is a complete evolution of the Buddhist symbols from the concrete image of the stupa which were there, and the Buddha image was not there previously, and then the Buddha image came, which is sort of the image of perfection, the Buddha mudra itself, and then we have the Bodhisattva image. Now, something about Bodhisattva, I would like to say that the latter form of Buddhism emphasized more on compassion, and the Bodhisattvas, by default, they are the embodiment of the compassion. And they have this particular mudra where one leg is stretched out, which shows that they are ready to enter into the world. The very beautiful mudra, they are ready to step into the world anytime, isn't it? They are just there to step into the world, to do the work for the suffering humanity. And I think I found this very interesting. So I just put it here that the Bodhisattva symbolism, Bodhisattva has a lot to teach. And I'm going to show you one of the very prominent symbols of compassion, Padmapani, and how its origin might have been. So I just want to rush you further. This is the image of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva in Ajanta caves. It's also in Aurangabad Leni, and you can see that it's called Ashta Bhayanashak Avalokiteshvara. And that time, ancient time, there were 8 fears, prominent fears. And it said that, if you have a compassion, you can come out of these fears. And, there is a, snake bite. And, everywhere the Avalokiteshvara is coming up with some kind of a remedy. So, in a way, if you interpret this, that, if we have a compassion, we can get over any fear. So, I just wanted to put this before you. And this is how in Kaniri caves, the devotion to Avalokiteshvara is shown. This Upasika is worshipping. And there are many panels. I'm showing you just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much. that we can know from the symbols. There is so much that we can understand, and this is how Avalokiteshvara, evolved in the 11-headed, Avalokiteshvara. The first image of the 11-headed. There's so much. This Bodhisattva symbol is so prominent in the Buddhism of the East, particularly Japan, in China, and Tibet. And it makes sense to us because that is the symbolic chanting that Baba Ambedkar has given us in his book, the Bodha Puja part, where he talks about the japa, and he gives us a japa of Om Mani Padme Hum, the japa associated with this great bodhisattva of compassion, whose head is split in 11 heads, so that he can look in all directions. And he has so many hands with eyes, so that he can help the people in different ways. He can give the food to hungry. He can give knowledge to those who are illiterate. He can do a lot. So that's the bodhisattva spirit. This is from Kaneri Caves, where you can see very beautiful carving. And I can go on talking a lot about bodhisattvas, and we can learn from bodhisattvas a lot. Even we can become the bodhisattvas. We can embody these bodhisattvas. It is not that we can never become the bodhisattvas. If we try, we can embody the qualities of those bodhisattvas. That is what is the ultimate aim of the bodhisattva symbolism. So I'm going to just go further. This is the famous symbol in Buddhism, the famous roar of the lions in the four direction, representing the Buddha. But these four animals, they have different meaning, and I'm not going to go into the different meanings of that. They represent the different powers of the Buddha, but it was also they represent the different events in the life of the Buddha. For example, the elephant is associated with the life with the birth of the Buddha. The renunciation is represented by the horse. The Buddha's roar is represented by the Siha, lion, and then of course there is a bull representing the way Buddha's family was involved in plowing, and how the Buddha attended the first dhyana, during that festival of Pomangala. So this is a lot even in the animal symbol. There's a lot in the symbol of Mayura, Mahamayuri. You can learn a lot from that symbol, and in the text, this symbolic meaning is brought forth. One of the use of the symbol was to teach the Dhamma. As I told you, that how we can learn the Dhamma from the symbols, how we can practice the Dhamma from the symbols. So this formula, he Dhamma hetu pabbhava tesang hetu tathagata tesang cha nirodho evam vadi mahasamano. This is the heart of Buddhism. This is what represent the paticca samutpad. And this is everywhere. You go anywhere, this is written. And this formula became the basis for deciphering the Ashokan Lipi. Because this formula is found in China, in Japan, in Tibet, in Sanskrit, in all the languages. So this formula became the basis to decipher the Ashokan Lipi. And this is everywhere. This is written on the clay tablet. This is written card on the caves. This is written on the doors of the caves. This is such an important formula that if it's said that if we forget the total teachings of the Buddha and keep in mind just one teaching of the Buddha, this is the teaching. He Dhamma hetu pabbhava tesang hetu tathagato aho tesang cha nirodho evam vadi mahasamano. And the English translation of this is that of those things that arise from a cause, the Tathagata has told the cause, and also what their suggestion is. This is the doctrine of the great recluse Mahasamana. That is the Buddha himself. So why I'm showing this? Because this symbol is inscribed everywhere, and this becomes very important for us to keep this formula in our memory all the time, because it is said that even the total Buddhism disappears, but only one gatha survives. This is the gatha. So I'm going to go further. This gatha is expanded into what is called the Bhava Chakra, and this is from the Ajanta caves, the mirror of mind, and this is the surviving copy of the Bhava Chakra. Now it is everywhere in the Tibetan Buddhism. You will find that, and it's written that this is copied from the Ajanta caves. Now, when we look at the symbolism, you can see the continuity of Buddhism. We cannot separate Buddhism into Theravada, Mahayana, or Tantrayana. It has the continuous historical evolution that is shown through the evolution of the symbols itself. So you see, this is a very interesting way of learning Buddhism, this symbol, and I can go and talk a lot about this, but this is not the time and space. Suffice here is to say that, if you commit this formula in your mind, edamma hetu pabhava tesang hetu tathagato avo tesang cha nirodho evam vadi mahasamano. And in the light of that, you see, this bhava chakra as to how our different mental state arise, depending on our different, poisons like raga, dosa, and moha, and their various combinations, how the entire suffering emerge. And this is what is also known in the Buddhist scriptures as the mirror of mind. So, Buddha also used another very interesting device to teach us, that is the device of Jataka tales. Now, you will find the Jataka tales in so many forms, in so many caves. They are sculpted, they are painted, and they are sometimes painted in a sequential form. Sometimes in one single panel, you can see the different parts of the story, and they are beautifully done. In Bharut, they are done. In Sanchi, they are done. In Ajanta, they are done everywhere. So Jataka tales acted as a teaching device. This is the Chadanta Jataka, where this very beautiful story of a tusker having six ivory, and how he was killed by the machination of his wife. There were two wives, and how his bodhisattva in the past. This is the Vesantar Jataka. A lot can be learned just by looking at this paintings and the sculptures of the Jataka things. So, I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to go further. I'm not going to take a lot of time now. Communities and their symbols. This is one of the most interesting symbols that I have witnessed. As you can see, that there is a naga, and below that, beneath that, there is the tree. And some of you might be aware that recently the museum in New York, they hosted a show, Tree and Serpent, and there were a lot of photographs of the ancient tree and serpents everywhere. And this is very interesting symbol for us, for the Indian Buddhists, particularly followers of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, because it shows the continuity of a community. So there is, as you can see, there is are the Buddha Pada and the Naga, and behind that there is a tree. And the tree is a representation of the Yaksha. And the Naga is representation of a Naga community. And according to Baba Sahib Ambedkar, they were not mythological figures, they were the human communities. So the tree represent the Yaksha, the people living in the forest, and the Nagas represent the mighty community throughout India. And I have recently spoken on that, and I'm writing a book on the Naga symbols. And it's a very interesting sort of a take on showing how we are continuity of the Naga communities. Undisputable evidences that are scattered archaeologically everywhere. Linguistically, we can now certainly claim from where we come from. And this too, and the Vajrapani is the symbol of Yaksha. Even in the Pali scriptures, we will find the mention of the word Vajrapani and as a Yaksha. And so many Yakshas we will find. Sometimes they are hostile to the Buddha, but this Yaksha Vajrapani is the protector of the Buddha. So keep this in mind, because this symbolism helps a lot. And these Nagas were always the protector of the Buddha. Always, always, always. Naga Muchilinda, Naga Kalika, and the river Niranjana itself is called the river of the Nagas. You see, the Nagas were the prominent communities in this country. Sanchi is all about Naga. And, in South India, Nagapattinam, they were all Buddhist places. And this symbol, a few symbol, which we have to decipher in terms of the Aksha and the Naga symbol. And I'm going to show you how this symbol further developed into Ajanta. So, there is in the cave number one, there is a Buddha here, and there is a Vajrapani here. I'm not able to show you clearly, but you can make out Padmapani. And it's my now, intelligent gaze or conjecture that Vajrapani represent the Yaksha community, the protector of the Buddha, which is there from the Pali's text up to the modern times. And then this very prominent Padmapani, the symbol of compassion, holding the lotus. And Vajrapani is, of course, holding the Vajra, the diamond. And this symbol, as the protector of Buddhism, becomes a device to teach us the wisdom and compassion in the very formula of Om Mani Padme Hum. So, there is a lot I can go on talking to you about, but the emergence of the symbol of Avalokiteshvara, a symbol of peace, symbol of non-violence, symbol of compassion, and its ultimate development into Avalokiteshvara is a very interesting sort of an intellectual inquiry into that. So, As I told you, there is a lot in Buddhist symbolism which can help us in how we can practice Buddha Dhamma. It can help us to have more clarity on the history of Buddhism, so that we know, what were the practices that have been handed down to us from the antiquity. We can know about the communities. We can know a lot, but also we can know something from the symbolism, that is, counter symbols. So, the Buddhist symbols were distorted. Some of the symbols were co-opted. Like, this is from Undavali in Vijayawada. I have been to this place, and here it is said that the Mahaparinirvana Buddha was turned into Vishnu. And in the first photograph, I took it in Angkor Wat in Cambodia, where the Buddha image is distorted into the Shaiva sadhu, as you can see from this image. There is a Buddha initially, and some sculpture later came with a chisel, and they tried to make it into the Shaiva symbol. Very interesting, So when we understand the symbols, we also have to understand the counter symbols. And then, of course, this is from Nalanda. The Buddha himself found in the Nalanda vicinity is called now Shri Teliya Bhandara Bhairo Mandir. You can see the blatant corruption, the blatant, distortion of the Buddhist symbols. So I'm coming to the end, but before I come to the end, I'm going to show you something very interesting as well. This is the book I found in the possession of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, heavily, right marked, the iconography of Tibetan Buddhism, and this is what Baba Sahib Ambedkar has, earmarked here. Can anyone tell me where can you see this mudra? I can go on talking about the mudras. There are so many mudras, but just for the gaze, can you tell me where do you find this mudra? Any one of you? So this mudra is found on every page of the Buddha and his Dhamma. This is called the Tarjani mudra, which also means the warning mudra. Caution, be cautious. Don't be, neglectful. This is what the mudra, inscribed on the every page of the Buddhism. This is what Baba Ambedkar wanted to put in the Buddhism. It's derived from this book, The Iconography of Tibetan Lamaism. Baba Ambedkar himself was very fond of the Buddha images, as we know from very early on that he was so much fond of the Buddha image, and one particular Buddha image that he envisioned the Buddha with the open eye. And this is in 1950, and he got Madil Gekar to sculpt the Buddha image for him. And according to some eyewitnesses, Baba Sahib himself learned the art of making the Buddha images, and he could make the sculpt the Buddha. And I reckon that they are in Aurangabad, but I have no way to prove them. This is the Buddha image, a very important speech of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. I think it's 1936, but I have to find it out. It's available also in the video, this speech. But you see the stupa and the Buddha behind Baba Sahib Ambedkar. You can clearly see the stupa and the Buddha. I'm going to show you the more extended photograph. You can see here the stupa and the Buddha. See, very interesting. The symbolism is not without, historical precedence. Our Lord Baba Sahib Ambedkar himself was a great lover of symbols. He wanted to write a short book on symbols in Buddhism. So this is a very interesting symbol. Of course, this is at the time of the conversion. You can see the same image which was in the mind of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Is Stupa and the Buddha, the Sanchi Stupa and the Buddha image. It's very beautiful if you look at the history of the symbols in this. Of course, we know what is it. We all know what is it. And this is what I found in the first Puja Path book, Atta Dipa Bhikkave Viharata. This is the image that Baba Sahib Ambedkar liked very much. This is from 1950 book, the Buddha Puja Path. And there is a dispute as to whether the Baba Sahib himself, sketched this. And I reckon that there were two sketches. One was done by some European who was living in Goa on the request of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. But the presence of this Buddha and Vamanrao Godbole Sahab told me personally that this is drawn by the middle image is drawn by Baba Sahib Ambedkar himself, and this was in his possession. And in his book, he mentions that he has seen this image, Baba Sahib Ambedkar working on this image, and he says that he found the most beautiful Buddha image which Baba Sahib Ambedkar was sketching. So I reckon that this middle image, the Buddha with the open eye, is the image that has so much significance. So coming to the end of my presentation, and this is the image that Baba Sahib Ambedkar liked, and this second image is found in the Essence of Buddhism. which Baba Ambedkar represented, done in 1948, P.L. Narsu's book. And according to some of the biographers, Baba Ambedkar went to the press every time and he ensured that, the different Buddha images be included in that book. And it's a very beautiful book that Baba Ambedkar got reprinted in 1948. And you will find this image in that book as well. So, coming to the symbolism, Buddhist symbolism of Baba Ambedkar that he used, you see, this is a Million College here, and when he built it, there is a stupa both on the corners, beautiful stupas. And also, this Siddharth College, because it were already constructed, he couldn't bring a lot of Buddhist imagery there, but we know that their names are Buddhist names, and Siddharth College and Ananda Bhavan and Buddha Bhavan and so on and so forth. So I thought that, when we talk about Buddhist symbolism, this is very important to keep in mind, this thing. So, I have taken you through a short journey, which I have been doing for last 25, 30 years, visiting, innumerable Buddhist sites throughout India. And I just, tried to give you the drop of it. There is a lot and lot and lot I can go on talking about the symbolism and how it can help us to practice Buddhism in our day-to-day life. And before I end, I would like to say that visiting the Buddhist archaeological site is a Buddhist practice itself. And whenever we visit the Buddhist site, any Buddhist site, with the kind of an attitude or with a kind of a psychology that I have just mentioned to you, and looking at the various symbols in the way I have taken you through, if you bear in mind, all these things, like for particularly if you enter into any Buddhist site, you encounter the Namo symbol, this symbol, which is everywhere, this Namo symbol. You know that you have to surrender your mind, body, and speech to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. So this, I said that we should all have this symbol at our home, because it remembers every day that we have to surrender our mind, body, and speech to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. You look at the Buddha image, just try to imitate the Buddha. Don't do anything, just try to imitate the Buddha. Keep your spine straight, like in these images. If you see the Buddha, how beautifully the Buddha is sitting here in this beautiful photograph I have taken in the Ajanta caves. You just try to imitate the Buddha. Don't do anything. Just try to, have that poise which you can find. Just this image where the turban is taken. Try to become the person without rank. Go beyond all egocentric thinking. And the Bodhisattvas, of course, I talked to you. So before I end, I wanted to just, tell you how important it is for an Ambedkarite to visit the archaeological sites, because they are our heritage. So this is the very damaged photograph from Ajanta. And in my view, Baba Ambedkar visited Ajanta 3 times. And one of the very interesting journeys that he did in the 30s, where he was very busy, and then suddenly, I think in Parel, he got his all working stuff together, and he said, "Let's go to Ajanta tomorrow." And then they hired a bus and they went to Ajanta, and they spent the whole day together, and they came by the evening back to Bombay. So you see, this is one of the visits. We don't have the photograph of that, but this is the photograph where Baba Ambedkar is sitting with uh, Mai Sahib. And this is a very beautiful photograph. I wish we have had the better copy than this. But this. So whenever you visit these places, you connect to the Buddha, through the our living Bodhisattva himself. So I think that the visiting the Buddhist archaeological site with the attitude that we have discussed himself enables us. This is another photograph of Baba Ambedkar. We know that Baba Ambedkar visited Mahar caves in 1927. We have to decipher, we have to explore so much. But this presentation, sorry for making it a little bit longer, but as you can see that there is a lot which we can learn from Buddhist symbols. And I encourage all of you, whenever you get a chance, to visit these archaeological sites and see for yourself as to how the entire culture has come from the Buddhist symbols. Had it not been for the Ashokan Lipi, we wouldn't have any modern script. Ashokan script, as I have told you, these orthographic symbols, how they enabled the development of the culture after Ashokan India. So with this, I will conclude. Thank you so much for having me. Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Dr. Sorry, Mangesh Devali sir. your presentation was very extremely informative to knowing the symbolism in Buddhism and how it evolved throughout the years and come to us. I would like to open the forum for the question and answer. Please raise your hand or put your question in a chat box. We will go by uh, as it comes. Satinaji, can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, hello. It was such an enlightening presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, I have so many questions, but I'll just ask you two. Um, what is that symbolism of this, Devi or woman represent, and what does yaksha, the tree yaksha?
Hmm.
Can you, shed some light on these two
Yeah.
aspects? Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
You see the you see this is a very interesting question as to there is a very prominent presence of the women in the Buddhist archaeological sites. So anywhere you go, you will find another Akshini, Shalabhanjika. They call her Shalabhanjika, which she's always holding on to the tree. And as I told you that Baba Ambedkar said that these all Nagas, Yakshas, Kinnaras, Gandharvas, they were all the human communities, and we can clearly show that they were human communities because they speak to the Buddha, they go to the Buddha, they argue with the Buddha. How can a serpent argue with the Buddha? Not possible. And so of course the Yakshini in the form of a women holding shawl or a branch is very prominent in all the Buddhist sites. And one of the paragons of beautiful sculpture, which is comparable to any culture in the world, is the Akshini, which is found in Patna, and it's in the Patna Museum. I have the photograph, but I'm not able to show you now. So women figure prominently, and in the latter forms of Buddhism, the women were given such an important, prominent place in the symbolism that you see the symbol of wisdom, Prajna Paramita, is a women. You see, the symbol of compassion is Tara. And we were talking about Avalokiteshvara, but when it went to this symbol, went to China, it became women, Konin Pusa. So you see, this is the latter form of Buddhism because this is very revolutionary in a sense. Like look at the Vajrayana form of Buddhism, we can see that there is one commandment that you will never despise a woman. That is, if you violate that precept, you fall from the path. That's what the Vajrayana precept says. So to come to that, this is a very prominent sort of Devi. We won't call it a Devi symbol. There are, of course, Bodhisattva symbols, and there are lots of Bodhisattva symbols. As I told you in Sadhana Mala, written by Advai Vajra, and we still have the copy, very interestingly printed by the Baroda Oriental series, very long back, when the manuscript of was found, Maharaja of Baroda, Sayajirao himself got it printed. So I'm sure that Baba Ambedkar was exposed to all this symbolism. So that is about that symbol. And about Aksha, you will find the mention of Aksha everywhere. And the prominent Aksha who protected the Buddha, who sort of, came up with his Vajra and protected the Buddha, is Vajrapani. In Pali, it's called Vajrapani, and in the latter Buddhist text, it's called Vajrapani. And I have shown you his painting from the Ajanta caves. So you can enumerate a lot of yakshas, the yaksha of Atavi and all different places. But all these yakshas are the forest dwellers, like the Nagas were the city dwellers. They were the makers of the cities. They were the makers of the dams. But the yakshas lived in the forest. So I can say only this much when it comes to the yaksha and the women in Buddhism. I hope this is okay to begin with, Satyanath ji.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Satyanaji, for that question. I would ask Manishji to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Namo Buddhaya, Jai Bhim, Rakesh ji.
Jai Bhim, Jai Bhim.
Yeah, yeah. Very nice presentation. I have a question on the Brahma Lipi, the Brahma script and Dhamma script. There is a debate always going on.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, Brahma Lipi came in third C, and then the
Not C,
Devanagari,
before Christ.
yeah, before Christ, and the Devanagari came in around 13th, 14th century, and it was there is always a debate which is the oldest language, whether it is Pali, Prakrit, or Sanskrit, or Tamil. So I just wanted to hear from you. What is your research on this?
See, the scripts are
And
very different and the languages are different. So languages can be spoken without the orthographic symbols. But when these cultures start taking place when you put the sounds into orthographic symbols. For example, ah. Now it's very easy to say, but how to represent that as a symbol? So you have a particular symbol of like in English A, then you have B representing the sound B. So you see what is important here is this, that the debate about the lipis is settled already, because you have only the evidence of the Ashokan lipi. Let's not call it Brahmi lipi, because it's the latter name given. The original name is Dhammalipi, and it's written in the inscription itself that this is Dhammalipi, which is carried out by the orders of Ashoka. So as I told you, the scholars have been saying, particularly William Henry Falk, that Ashoka himself might have had developed the script, and he says that he might have developed it from the Aramaic and the Roman aids or sources. Now we don't know how he came to that, but suddenly you see the emergence of the Ashokan lipi, and that's of course at the time of Ashoka. And this Devanagari and all, as I told you, you can follow through the evolution of the various scripts. I have seen a book where a scholar has demonstrated that every single alphabet of a Telugu language has been derived from the Brahmi script. In different centuries, what happened in the second century, third century, fourth century, seventh century, and so on and so forth. So this is what is it. This is what is the historical, the academic position at this time. Now we don't know about the propaganda, but this is what the history teaches us. So we'll take two more.
Yeah, there are two more questions, Mangesh. Anuji, can you go ahead and ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you, JP Mangesh. It was very nice presentation. It was very informative as well. I have two questions regarding two mudras or symbols. First is walking in clockwise direction that you showed earlier. I was wondering, what does that mean, and how can we implement this kind of symbol in our day-to-day life? And the second question goes back to this again, the
You mean the
mudra, the
walking symbol, Anu?
walking symbol.
Okay. Go on.
Yeah, there's clockwise direction walking symbol, and the other one is Tarjani mudra.
Yeah.
So how that Tarjani mudra symbol is relevant in our day-to-day life and in today's world?
Yeah. Well, a good question. You see, in the ancient time, people carried different weapons. Like they carried a rod, or they carried a sword, or they carried something to protect themselves. And most of the people are righty, so you hold the arms in the right hand, right? So whenever you approach the Buddha, you have to be weaponless. You cannot carry any violent symbol with you. So whenever we approach, we cannot approach the stupa or the Buddha with a pistol in our pocket or with a knife in our hand. So it represents, like, giving up the violence or giving up the arms. And then when you take a round, with the right hand towards the stupa or the Buddha, in a way you surrender your total violence. Okay. And then you circumambulate three times to the Buddha or the stupa. And that has been the practice from the antiquity, from the time of the Buddha. That is how people used to pay the respect to the living Buddha. So I think this is a very useful practice whenever we encounter or we visit a stupa or any sacred place. And with that devotion of Namo in our mind, as I told you, Namo means surrendering our mind, body, speech to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. I've shown you how that monogram represents the total surrender. And so I think this is a very interesting practice of paying our respect to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And secondly, about the Tarjani Mudra, as I have shown you that Baba Ambedkar has marked several mudras from there, but he chose this Tarjani Mudra for the Buddha and Dhamma, which means cautious, caution, warning. So I think we all should be warned. In other words, we should be on our guards as to whether we are harming Buddhism in any way. You see what I'm saying? And Baba Sahib Ambedkar has asked us to be vigilant all the time, because to say there are threats to Buddhism from all over the places. And if we are heedless, if we are not mindful, if we are not having uh, apramad, we cannot go further. So I think this is in a way Baba Sahib Ambedkar is saying that don't rest, do your work, be cautious, be alert. So I think that's the logic behind Baba Sahib Ambedkar inscribing the Tarjani Mudra on the every page of the Buddha and his Dhamma.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
I,
So,
I,
do we
I'm going to
have?
yeah, okay.
Yeah, just a follow up on the Tarjani Mudra. It sounds very interesting to me. And sorry for asking a additional question on this, but do we have any kind of written evidence of what Baba Sahib Ambedkar was having on his mind while he was putting that mudra on every page of? Yeah.
We don't have to know the mind of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, because as I told you that it's very evident. Like if you see this mudra, it's very evident that this is the Dhamma Chakra Pravartana mudra. If you see this is Abhay mudra. If you see like this is a Dana mudra. So there are various mudras of the Buddha, and the Tarjani mudra is written that it means caution. So Baba Sahib Ambedkar wanted to give us a caution, right?
Okay.
So the mudra is self-explanatory. We don't have to have interpretation of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Arunaji, can you please unmute yourself and ask a question?
Namo Buddhaya, Jaivi.
Maybe.
And I'm so glad that you have so profound knowledge about Buddhism, not only Buddhism, about this mudras and all. And nowadays people don't select as a career, but I'm so glad that from my community somebody is selected as a career, so we can preserve our tradition with this culture, and we can go ahead and we can learn from you. My question was that there are four faces, no, four heads of a Siha
Yeah.
lion in Ashoka pillar and everywhere.
Yeah.
So what is the symbol of that? And Baba Sahib selected Ashok Chakra for the flag, and the Sinhaka, like lion faces on the bill. So I was just wondering what could be the reason, if you know, because in Sihala also, like Sri Lanka country, they have on the flag Siha.
Yes.
So,
See, Siha, as I told you, is a symbol of the Buddha's teaching, fearless roaring of the Buddha. So once you have a truth, you are fearless, right? And the Buddha proclaimed his Dhamma fearlessly. He was not fearful of anybody, because what he was speaking was the deeper truth of the humanity. So it's a Sihanad. And if you see this mudra, four directions means conquering the four directions, not just one
yeah,
direction.
I was also thinking, yeah.
Okay, so that is the symbolism behind these four lions. And you have four bulls also, you have four elephants also, they are now gone. You have four horses also. So all symbols were there, and now they are gone. But this symbol survives, the symbol of the Ashokas, the Buddha's, Sihanad of the Buddha, like proclaiming the teachings fearlessly in all the four directions. And we can see that very clearly here. And Baba Ambedkar has not written about the wheel of Dhamma Chakra, which is,
Dhamma Chakra, yeah.
yeah, but Dhamma Chakra in a
So is
sense,
it the wheel for Ashok Chakra or is it a Dhamma wheel?
it's a Dhamma Chakra, and we,
Because we say in Saranath it's a Dhamma Chakra, but some says no, it is Ashok Chakra.
no,
So which
it's a Dhamma Chakra
is it
only.
from Baba Bhagwan Buddha or from King Ashoka?
It's from Buddha himself, the Dhamma Chakra. That's why, everywhere Buddha turns the wheel of the Dhamma. Now Buddha cannot turn the wheel of
24
the Dhamma before Ashoka, right?
sides.
So Ashoka comes after the Buddha.
How can we call it Ashok Chakra?
You
Which
just call it Ashok Chakra for the namesake, but it's a Dhamma Chakra, right?
Dhamma
So
Chakra?
it's a
Okay.
Dhamma Chakra, and the Dhamma Chakra has a very deep meaning. And Anagrik Dharmapal has given a deep meaning when it came to Indian flag. He says that the Indian constitution has not come from the any fixed law. It has come from the flowering of the deep human, mind. That is the mind of the Buddha. And the Dhamma Chakra represents the law of the Dhamma, not the ordinary law, isn't it? And the Dhamma is such a deep law, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar understood himself when he says that the preamble, the liberty, equality, and fraternity, I have taken it from my master, the Buddha. And I think the Dhamma Chakra can be interpreted very deeply in terms of the flowering of the greatest of the qualities within a human being, isn't it? That's the highest law. That's the place from which you can derive the highest law, not from the abstract thinking, but from the deeper human experience, the way Buddha had. So, there are a lot of things that we can talk about Dhamma Chakra, and it's a very potent symbol. And earlier, Buddha himself was represented by the Dhamma Chakra.
Thank you.
Okay.
There is one more
I will
question.
take only one question because I have to go, Rakesh.
Yeah, sir. Just one more question, and then we will conclude the session.
Yeah, yeah.
Vivek, sir, can you go ahead?
Yeah. Thank you, Rakesh, for giving me the chance. Thank you, Mangesh, for joining this call, and it's indeed a great session and a lot of things you have highlighted. I have a question in regards to the modern time, where you have mentioned about the physical and metaphysical, the presence of deities and non-deities. So how do we, this question has come many times, and you probably have heard many times in the past during your discussion as well. How do you address in the modern time, the presence of these things and the significance when the people are so advanced in the scientific and technology? How do you bring this the Buddhism and the science? You connect. How do you connect this dot together and to remove the the questions people have in the mind? Even I may have. All the people, the youngsters that we get on the vihara, small kids have these questions. How would you remove that questions? The what do you call, well, just to put the ambiguity from the minds. So that's my question. Yes.
But I think that's altogether a different topic of Buddhism and science. Here, you talk about like the science, the way it explores the material realities, quote unquote, and the Buddhism is all about how you can work on your minds, right? How you can work on your mind so that your mind is more calm, more poised, more malleable, more open to others, compassionate, just. I think this is a different domain from the scientific domain. So this domain needs different methods to cultivate. And these all symbols, as we talked about, they are like aids to us to become a better person, right? So, I don't know whether science is about making you a better person. It's about finding the nature of the reality in terms of the various aspects. But Buddhism is all about how you can transform yourself into a better person without having superstitious mind, etc. So I would say that these different symbols, whatever they are, even the symbols of bodhisattvas, they are aid to your practice. They do not have any metaphysical presence. Like I don't think there is Tara outside you. There is no Avalokiteshvara outside you. But you can yourself become an Avalokiteshvara, or you can yourself become a Tara, isn't it? As I told you about the symbol that their one step is out in the world, always ready, eager to serve others. So I think this is very interesting, that the kind of mental attitude that these symbols cultivate, because whatever you visualize have a psychological impact on you. If you worship the deities with the weapon in their hands, it in the subconsciously you tend to become violent. But if you just look at for a moment the image of the Buddha, isn't it? And it's not true just about us. It's about anybody. The Buddha image has, inspired the generations after generations, the Buddhist and the non-Buddhist, right? So such is the symbolism, and the symbolism goes in a very advanced forms in the teaching of Kabir and Raidas. And because we don't know the context, we think that it's so reference to the context is very important. The frame is very important. So the frame of science is very different. The frame of Buddha Dhamma is very different. The goal of Buddha Dhamma is very different than this goal of science. So it's up to you, what symbols you want to take it or leave it, right? So if you are comfortable in visualizing, say, Avalokiteshvara, it's okay, fine. You go ahead and try to embody the qualities of it. Try to become an Avalokiteshvara. You know, think of these qualities like Namo Tassa Bhagavata Arahato Samma Sambuddha. The greatest mantra, it is said in the Buddhist world, is this Namo Tassa Bhagavata Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. The simple 26 syllables have so much of a value. Like as I told you, Namo means taking your mind, bending your mind. To whom? Tassa, towards whom? Namo Tassa Bhagavato. This word Bhagavato itself has so much of a depth. Arahato, again more depth. Samma Sambuddho, Buddhasa, more deeper and deeper aspect of the human reality that we can touch at. So, I won't, because these two different magisteria, two different domains, Buddhism and science, isn't it? The attitude is the same to explore the reality, the cause and effect. As I said that, all the teachings of the Buddha is gone, but only e dhamma hetu pabhava. Tesang hetu tathagato avo tesang cha nirodho evam vadi mahasamano. So, how different things arises, how the suffering arises, what are the causes of that? It's a science. It's basically a scientific thinking to find out the causes, isn't it? Science does all the, science is all about finding the causal relationship between different phenomena, right? Right. So you see, I would say that we need a framework to teach all these symbols to even the kids, and the stories, Jataka stories. We cannot discount them. If you for a child, they are story loving people, and if you read them, the Jataka stories, the very beautiful qualities of the Buddha come alive. You cannot use the abstract symbols to teach them. So as I told you, the stories are also symbolic, isn't it? We can glean a lot from that. Just let's not discount the Jataka tales because thinking that the Buddha was monkey in the past birth, isn't it? We can say, okay, he was not the monkey in the past birth, but here is a story, beautiful story for you, even the adult love story, right? So I think, of course, we have to discard everything that is against science. But I think that the Buddhism convey, have the spirit of knowing the world around and knowing your own reality deeply. So I don't think it's contradict, but it's take it or leave it basis. If you like certain symbol, take it. If you don't like it, leave it. It's like a rap. Use it if it makes you a better person. It doesn't make you a better person. Give it up. Right? There is nothing fixed.
Yeah, right. No, thank you very much. That's the way you put it pretty clearly. Take it or leave it, and also the way you connected the dots. To remove this superstition from the mind. Bringing the Buddhist practices and the scientific in the modern time. Where because people are getting education, so people start contemplating. Their minds are becoming more rationalized. And so I think the deeper the people understand and the deeper people are learning about the Buddhism, they are becoming more closer to the science itself. When the teachings has becoming so clear to them, and
Right.
also this is one of the problem in our community as well.
Yeah.
Our superficial mind where just reads one particular
Yeah.
area and not understanding the deeper context of the Buddhist practices. So there is the things are coming as people are learning more, understanding and bringing this the scientific and the Buddhist practices so closer to each other. They're pretty compatible. Yes. Thank you being on the call as well.
Just a final line, because you see the Buddhism, the symbol monogram that I told you, so I showed you about Namo, is all about devotion, isn't it? If your heart doesn't respond to the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, your brain won't follow. So this abstract ideas or symbolism, they don't make sense if we do not have that devotion, that openness to what is who is the Buddha or the Dhamma or the Sangha. I can go on speaking a lot about that, but you can understand that the basic symbol in Buddhism is all about devotion, right? Of course, not blind devotion, but de-devotion. Okay, Rakesh?
Yeah, so with that, thank you, Mangesh sir, for joining with us and giving us very insightful, informative, and useful presentation about the symbolism in Buddhism and how we can use in day-to-day practice. This is very fruitful session for us. I hope we can join you in future also. And I would let you go. Thank you for joining with us. Yeah. I would like to ask Anuji to announce